Well, how about that? Join the block party, JBL's block party. Check him out.
I may block your social media guy, by the way. What a dick. The guy puts out a video to promote the show that we did last week. Now, listen, the Brawl for All, I had 4 fights. I won 3 of them, or the judges at least say I won 3 of them. One I get knocked out in. What does your social media guy put up? He puts up me getting knocked out.
Shout out to Derek.
I may have to block. I may have to block something to wrestle with.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That would be awesome. Go ahead and make that happen today. Speaking of people getting blocked, there was not a lot of blocking going on this past Friday night. Mike Tyson fought what we thought would be for sure his last fight. And afterwards, he says he's not sure he's done, but I think perhaps a lot of us are. What did you think of his performance against Jake Paul? What a spectacle. What an impressive house. I mean, there's no telling how many people streamed that thing. I guess we'll find out tomorrow as the story goes. But history is made. Jake Paul got the dub. What'd you think, John?
I was disappointed. I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan, and I thought Tyson was not himself. I now see that, you look at the training videos he did. It's easy when you're able to orchestrate that. I just don't think he trained. I don't think he's trained hard since Customato. That's what happened to him with Buster Douglas. When you got in trouble, you don't need a champion racehorse a champion jockey on a racehorse until you get in trouble. And when Tyson didn't have a corner, it didn't matter until he got in trouble. And he hadn't really had a good training camp since. I just thought Tyson wasn't himself. I know he's 58, but he played a lot of defense and he just looked slow moving. I just thought he wasn't in shape. I thought he got in shape as far as his body. That's a complete different shape for boxing. And I just didn't think I hate it because I love Mike Tyson. I didn't think he put the time in the ring is what I thought.
You mentioned being in shape, but we could physically see it looked like he was in shape. But we fans have heard something called ring shape. Can you explain the difference in ring shape from a wrestler's perspective?
Yeah, there's no comparison. They talk about you can do the Stairmaster forever, but they're getting in the ring and moving around like you do and having to give up and down. It is a complete different shape, and it's a complete different shape for anything you do. You look at the beginning of an NFL football season. These are some of the greatest athletes in the world. These guys have a real struggle, especially when they're playing in the South in the heat, finishing a game without getting tired and getting substitutes having to be put in. They're in great shape. They're not in game shape. Getting in game shape is completely different, especially for wrestling or boxing.
I'm convinced that Mike Tyson was injured. They asked him in the post-fight interview, and you could see him wearing a brace on a knee. Roy Jones was calling it out in commentary. It did feel like he was moving a lot slower than we saw in the training videos. I don't think there's a rematch opportunity out there at this point. It was pretty one-sided. Is there a spectacle you'd like to see Mike Tyson do one more time, or is that enough for you?
I think that's enough for me. I wish he was in shape. I think he hurt himself by not being shape. And I agree with you. I think he was hurt. He had no movement. He had no side movement. And when he walked back to his corner, you could see he was struggling to walk. He walked side to side like a guy that was having some type of leg problems. I don't think there is. I think for Jake Paul there is. I think there's huge upside for Jake Paul, which, by the way, you talk about work rate. People love to talk about work rate on the internet and things and telling stories and the difference. These guys told a story.
Yes.
So they put 70,000 people in an arena. It was probably the most watched boxing spectacle of all time. Yes. And that to me is the difference. Now, should you do both? It's not an either or, but you have great boxers out there that will spend their entire life. You can put 100 of them together. It won't make what Jake Paul made in that one night. Getting people interested to come to matches to me is so much more important than work rate. You want both. I don't mean to denigrate one or the other, but you got to have people with interest.
We saw in the post-match, there was at least a mention of Logan Paul by Mike Tyson. Do you think there's a chance we see Mike Tyson versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania? Is that too far out there?
I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be awesome to have Jake Paul at WrestleMania and have Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Those two guys are amazing to me. I mean, absolutely amazing. They've done incredible things, and with their internet, with their YouTube that they're doing, it's a story that's beyond belief. Everybody talks about how you can get on the internet and get over. Those guys have gotten over, and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars, the career lifetime earnings, because of the fact that they've gotten over.
I mean, just this past weekend, we saw Jake Paul make over $40 million. So it feels like, big things are on the horizon for him. We'll see if that Canelo thing comes true, but Mike Tyson, Logan Paul at WrestleMania, that could be interesting. Also interesting is Stipe retired on Saturday night. John Jones is still the man in the UFC. I don't know if you got a chance to catch any of the highlights, but are you a UFC fan? And what do you think about their sort of partnership with WWE? We saw Triple H and Stephanie sitting ringside not that many years ago. That was not possible. Now everybody's on the same team. What do you think of that?
I think it's awesome. The synergies that you have with UFC and with WWE are enormous. And I'm not talking about fighters doing both. They only have, one Brock Lesnar that can do something like that. And there's been a couple others. Dan Severn did both actually at the same time. But I don't think there's the crossover as far as athletes. But as far as the social media, as far as the arenas, I mean, you can go down to Brazil now and run a big pay-per-view, a premium live event for WWE and for UFC, and also put a TV show together down there because you have the same arenas, you have the same cable channels. There's so many synergies globally with these guys that you can do a lot. This is a terrific merger, in my opinion. I always thought it was.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens because it does feel like this company is poised for a lot of growth. I've predicted on some other podcasts that I think 2025 is going to be the biggest year in wrestling history. I don't think I'm going to walk that back at all. It feels like they've got more momentum than ever right now. Don't you agree?
Conrad, it's unbelievable what they're doing right now. The revenue that they're bringing in and the gates that they're bringing in and the eyeballs that they're bringing. TV is measured now differently than it was. When you drew a 8.1 rating when we were unopposed to WCW, that'll never happen again. But we didn't have 100 million people on social media watching. I mean, these guys are drawing eyeballs all over the world. Vince McMahon told me in the early 90s that he had an idea to have academies and regional territories on all the different continents. And I don't know if that's what they're going toward. I have no insight into what they're doing, but that's what it looks like. Imagine having a separate territory in South America, in Europe, in Asia, and then having a legit world champion come together. You can do that in both UFC and with WWE now because of their presence globally.
I can't wait for us to talk more about WWE in 2025. But today's topic is the late, great Eddie Guerrero. I can't believe this is real, but we just passed the anniversary of his passing last week. Does it feel like it's been like 19 years, man?
No, I can remember like it was yesterday, unfortunately, because it was such a sad memory walking into the arena there in Minneapolis and seeing Chavo and Rey Mysterio together. I knew something was horribly wrong. And so I went over there to talk to him, and I knew it was nothing that was minor. I knew something really major had happened. That's when I found out that Eddie had passed. And yeah, it feels like it was yesterday. What a good guy. Conrad, people ask me all the time, what do I regret most in life? When you make as many mistakes as I do, you probably should regret a lot. But the thing I regret the most is that Eddie Guerrero is not here. Yeah. I wish Eddie were here now so that he could be on the show with us, so I can sit around and talk to him and, like the old guys, bash the young guys for not knowing what they're doing. But Eddie was such a nice person and such a great person. He influenced so many people, not just by what he did in the ring, but what he did outside the ring because of who he was. Our world has really missed out by Eddie not being here.